This segment is brought to you by JigMasters Jigs. When in doubt, get the jig out. Go to JigMasters.com and use promo code PNF20 and save 20% off your next jig order today.
You're listening to The Reel Down, sponsored by Ketch Photo Release Tournaments. This is your premier tournament source. Here are your hosts, Sam Jones and Dan Perry.
All right, welcome back to The Reel Down on the Paddle and Fin Network. We've got some crazy times going on right now. We're recording this on Monday the 30th, I believe it is, and so we always post it on Friday, and obviously there's a lot going on in our world right now, but we'll try to keep this light and have some fun, give you something to take your mind off of all the bad things that are going on in the world right now, and hopefully all y'all are staying safe. So with us tonight, we have two of the guys from Kayak Anglers of Florida. We have Mr. Randy Newton, the owner and founder, and Nicholas Beltran, social media, cameraman, director, all around nice guy. So welcome to the show, guys.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having us.
Yeah, anytime. And my co-host Sam, he couldn't be on tonight. Obviously, with everything going on, he had some stuff going on that prevented him from being here. So thank y'all for being on the show, and I'm ready to just talk about some Florida fishing. A lot of the places that y'all fish on your tour, we've talked before this, and I love your area. I love fishing down there, so it's fun for me just getting to talk about something that I love. So it's a good deal.
Well, we definitely love talking about Florida, and we love to fish it, so it just goes hand in hand.
There you go. Well, let's start out, Randy. How did you get into kayak fishing?
I got into kayak fishing, this would be now 7 years ago, with Heroes on the Water. I saw a video online that sparked my interest. Myself being a veteran, it kind of went hand in hand. I was dealing with a little bit of problems in my life, but I met my amazing wife 12 years ago, and we were going through transitions, and I was going through work transitions, and Heroes on the Water happened to come across a video screen, and I watched the video, got really intrigued by it, bought my very first kayak, which was an Ascend, which is I think everybody's first kayak, and immediately jumped on board as a volunteer for the local chapter down here. And then after that, got the opportunity to become the area coordinator for Heroes on the Water for the East Coast. And that dumped me full-fledged into kayak fishing. Not only that, but helping our brothers and sisters in the military at that time, and really being able to get to fish a lot of amazing places, meet up with tons of amazing people and fish. And I really got immersed into the kayak fishing world of volunteerism. So then after that, I got the opportunity of kind of starting my own business, where I then became a guide. I took everything that I learned from Heroes on the Water and everything that we did, and created my own business down here as a guide service, SoFlo KBF, where I did really well. I mean, I took about 300 tours in 1 year of individuals that went out, and just really got to be more personable, learning more about the areas, teaching individuals, taking them out on the water, getting them out there, just showing them a good time, providing everything they needed. So all you had to do is just show up. And then through all of those things, a club was kind of formed. And it started out as SoFlo KBF, and then it merged where it was not just a local club. It merged into the state club, which is now the Kayak Anglers of Florida, which is what it is today. And now we have a trail, and we have a couple guys that's come on board. Nicholas is one of them. He's been with me for quite some time, and got to bring him on board to work with us. And he's now doing social media. He's got a big presence in that, and he's really helping us out a lot. And so we got two other guys that help out. That's Will. He's basically our tournament director. He's more into the trail, and I'm more into like the mentoring and growing what we have out in Florida to grow bigger, and take it to the next step. So that's how I kind of got involved in it. So I started with an Ascend. I went to a wilderness, actually a fill free. Then I went to a wilderness, and I ended up in my mother lode, which happens to be that Hobie right there, and that's where I am now. And I would no offense to the Navy guys, but I wouldn't change anything. So
Which Hobie is it? The 14?
that is the PA 12.
12.
Yeah.
And the 12, it doesn't have the new 360, right?
No,
they do?
I still have I have the 2015 that has a 180 drive in it, and it was an upgraded purchase that I managed to get from somebody, which was really awesome. And that happened to have the new 180 in it instead of a regular standard pedal. So that was a huge upgrade for me. So that was nice.
Cool. All right, Nicholas, how about you?
All right, man. So pretty much, I've been fishing all my life, bank fishing. Raised here in South Florida, fishing the canals, fishing local lakes around, with my father. Growing up, just doing that, and recently got involved into this kayak fishing world, thanks to Mike McKinstry, who pretty much was one of the first guys I kind of found out about, that was really into this kayak fishing, and he gave me some connections for, people around me and local anglers that were interested in kayak fishing also. And that was Randy Newton being one of those guys that actually got me involved into the competing part of this whole thing, and doing the tournaments and Calcuttas and stuff like that he just mentioned he hosted. But after that, it just bursted out of there, and I started loving it. I got addicted to it. I like him, I started with the Ascend. I had I started off with the 10-foot Ascend, and I went to the 12 feet Ascend, and after that I just got hooked. I wanted a brand new thing. Every year that came out with a brand new kayak, I wanted to get that kayak. But then I had to kind of slow down once I started with the Bonafide SS127. I think Sam was talking about that last time. And that was a remarkable, kayak for me. That was one of the, from an Ascend to a Bonafide was like a tremendous leap. And it was just from a mediocre kayak, which, I have nothing against Ascend, but a mediocre kayak to a professional all-around fisherman's boat, and then once that took place, I had that for like about a year and a half, then switched over to the native 12. So that was pretty cool. So that was pretty cool, because now I have a drive system, and that's one of the things that there was a lot of confusion as far as like what I liked. A lot of people thought that I liked the paddles, because I was a big fan of the old school paddling, which I still am. I still have my bending branches paddles there, and they do come in hand. So once that, I switched over to the pedals, and dude, it was just instant gratification there, bro. Like, I fish now more often. I see myself catching, having the better chances of catching a lot more fish, and enjoying the time a lot, not chasing after these guys that I fish with all the time in KF. So it's really shown a lot. So that's pretty much it for now. I mean, I started my YouTube channel recently. I've gotten really good at social media lately, and I just been, I've been doing what everybody that's in this passion for fishing and likes kayaks have been doing, and just hustling, trying to make it, man.
That's right. And I went the same way from Bonafide 127 to the native 12. Titan 12, and it just, just being hands free. I wish I had just went pedal first, but it just frees you up. You can just there's really, if you're fishing somewhere where you can only paddle, I get it, and rivers, streams, things like that, that's what you have to. But if you can go pedal, anybody that's listening to this and you're just thinking about getting your first kayak and you want to jump right into it, buy the one you want first, save up the money and do it, or get a used one. I would definitely, if you can get a pedal kayak, just do it right out of the gate, and don't waste your time with a pedal if you can help it. If you're fishing water that lends itself to fishing with pedals, just the hands free, it's so much easier.
That's right.
Well, just to give you, and sorry to interrupt, but just to give you kind of like what I was thinking as a beginner, for those beginners that are listening, to us talk about this. When I was a beginner, and I'm a low budget angler, like I'm not loaded, you know what I mean? I work a job and it's consistent, but when I first started getting into it, like, I think that's where I gained all my experience. I think that's a better way to gain experience in this kayaking world now, is because you had to go through it. Like, I had to go through the paddling and going for miles, trying to keep up with these guys. And it helped tremendously now that I have the paddles, the pedals, it's now I can do both things and not have to complain about, my trip and how bad it was or anything like that. So you first want to start off, I think my opinion is to start off with a pedal kayak, start from there, and then move on. You know what I mean? And start from whatever you can get for the budget you can get it for. You know what I mean? For the right budget. So that's my advice.
It's tough too, though, because any kayak you have, I mean, I'm not trying to get into a big debate about kayaks, but any kayaks, none of them are perfect. Like, you got a negative 12, it's great. You do not want to take that on a river. If you have, it's the same thing with everything, where it's like one boat's too heavy, one boat's too light, one boat isn't stable enough. Same way with engineering a car. You can't have a minivan that holds a bunch of stuff that goes really fast. No kayak can do everything. Some are more versatile in the middle, and those are good for a lot of people. But ideally, you can just have like 5 different kind of boats, and just take out the one that you need at the time. That would be a perfect world. But yeah. All right, so let's talk about Kayak Anglers of Florida. How long have y'all been around? Tell us about the club, the tournament, the scene down there. What's going on?
So Kayak Anglers of Florida has been around for about a year. It started out several years ago as SoFlo KBF, and it kind of built the groundwork and the framework for what we're doing now. And it was, I want to say, March or May of last year that we decided to make the change to Kayak Anglers of Florida. And when we made the change to Kayak Anglers of Florida, like I said earlier, it went from a local club to a statewide club. We now will go all over the state. We have anglers from everywhere. It's not just the simple South Florida casual angler. These are anglers. I mean, these are anglers that are fishing big tournaments for the KBF, the Bass, the Hobie. I mean, these are anglers that are now involved in the club that want a trail that's built for them. And so we got together with Will at ICAST last year, and we said, you know what, we're just going to make this happen. We're going to do this. And we kind of shot in the dark, and we ran for it. So from that moment on, from ICAST to last year, and it's almost ICAST this year, for the first 3 months of this year, we've had 3 events already. And the first event was 30 anglers. The second event was 24. And this last one was 24. And it's just growing. I mean, it's coming on board. We just had 3 new signups again today for the rest of the year. And it's kind of taken us by surprise, but at the same time, we expected it to happen. There's been many chances to try something like this in the state of Florida, and it's failed. And what we found out is through a lot of organization, planning, and diligent work, a lot of groundwork, and a lot of behind-the-scenes work by all the individuals involved, has made this a very successful club so far. And not only that, but the anglers, telling their friends, having their anglers come on board. We have, I would say, out of all the anglers, which is right now pushing right around 50 as paid members, I want to say maybe 15 to 20 of those are all new anglers in the industry. So they're brand new, learning as we go. So yeah, I would say it's been around for 7 years, but Kayak Anglers of Florida has been around for a year.
And how much are your membership fees and the tournaments and all that good stuff?
All right, so our membership fee is $40 membership fee for the entire year, and that fee goes straight into the championship. Doesn't go in anybody's pocket, anything like that. It goes into the championship for the winner, the top 3 positions of those. And then we have our tournament fees, individual monthly fee for the tournament is a 1-day tournament for $40. So it's a $40 fee for each event.
And how's the payback work? Do you do it based on how many people are in, or top 3, or?
So we do the top 3 guarantee. We decided we were doing that guarantee for every. So it really depends on the numbers. If we have 20 anglers It will then go by the percentages, something like 50, 30. I can't remember the exact number right off the top of my head, but it's in that range. So we do that, and then if it's obviously for anything higher, we will do. If it's 40 anglers, then it'll be the top 4 spots. If it's 50 anglers, the top 5 spots, and it will grow and increase from there.
Okay, cool. So let's do a little recap of some tournaments that you had. First, January 25th, you had one on Okeechobee. That's a lake that's near and dear to my heart. Like you said, had 30 people. But that was a tough tournament because only 2 people had a full 5-fish limit, right?
Yeah, that was. Nick can attest for this, and I'm going to let him speak a little bit about it. That morning, we just had 2 cold fronts come through, and we thought it was going to be no wind, and it happened to be super foggy, very dense, very chilly. I mean, it was cold. I was wearing a winter jacket, getting out of the vehicle and unloading, and we were like, oh no, this is not going to work out. And it was probably not until 10 o'clock that it kind of warm up, the fog lifted, and we were able to see. But then after that, if you went one way, the winds were just beating you to death, and if you went the other way, it was dead. And Nick can tell a little bit about his story about how that lake was, because he was still in his paddle craft at that time. So Nick, give him a little brief heads up with that one.
Yeah, so in a group of everybody that has pedal kayaks, I was with my that was the last time I actually competed with the Bonafide. The wind started.
You're like, the hell with that.
So that was, and to even my audience out there, like, that was my turning point. That was where I was like, okay, enough of this. I respect the hell out of Bonafide and what Luther did on that boat. And I got to tell you, that boat is one of the best, I think, as far as a paddle kayak concerned. And I was done. The wind started picking up. We were on one side of the lake. This is actually Monkey Box. I don't know if you already mentioned it, but this is a part of Lake Okeechobee. It's considered top of the line, area for big bass, and that's what my mind was at. My mind was, I'm gonna be in stealth mode. I've got the paddles. I'm gonna be sneaking up to these guys. There's not gonna be any wind. And sure, it was cold as hell in the morning. Then it started picking up. The wind started picking up, and it was just crazy. I fell into a little trap there in a channel where airboats are just coming in and out. And that's one thing, if you're in Lake Okeechobee, know where you're going, have people tell you where you're going, because even with Google Maps, you ain't gonna get out of there if you're stuck in one of these channels that airboats are coming in and out of. And I learned my lesson. If I hear airboats or I see airboats, I'm gonna be on the other side of them and not but anyway, you know what? My curiosity killed the cat there, because I was going to this channel. I wasn't seeing anybody go in, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna do good here in this channel. Because once that wind started picking up in Lake Okeechobee, especially, it wasn't that I can remember. It wasn't that deep. It was actually very, very shallow. I was saying, these guys are in the deep water now. These bass are there, and I looked for channels, and it wasn't effective, and I got trapped into a really bad time for me there. But anyway, that was pretty much it. I got I believe I got the first fish of the day, which was cool. But other than that, it was just tough. It was really tough.
Yeah, the 2 anglers that pretty much got their full bag, one was in the area that we were, but he found deeper water, which is in Monkey Box. And then the other angler decided to go. So we went down the canal. That's how we launched from one spot. Everybody went left, and one angler and his wife went right. And as soon as he went right, he went into the soft, beautiful, it was like the Holy Land. It was like a beautiful haze around him, and he's just having the great time. And he catches all 5 of his fish within the first hour. He hit the hot spot. And so then after that, his area shut off, and he caught maybe like 1 or 2 fish the rest of the day. But Okeechobee is known for Monkey Box. It's got big bass in it. We know it's got big bass in it. You see them on videos. If you see anything from Scott Martin, he's fishing in that area. everybody had these chances, and nobody was throwing anything. And I think the most fish caught that particular tournament was, besides those two with the 5 and 10, I think altogether maybe an angler caught 2 and 1. It was so low. It was pathetic. So we were like, oh, please don't let this be the start of our tournament. Don't let it be like this. And when we left that tournament, it was a good time because the anglers had a great spirits. They had a great time. When you get 30 people out on the water and all these boaters are like, what just happened? They've never seen this many kayaks at a launch. And everybody was awesome. I mean, they were courteous to the boaters. The boaters were courteous to the kayaks. They went around us. We gave them right of ways. We heard them coming. We parted like the Red Sea, let them go through. They were very appreciative of that. It worked out really, really well. But when you see 30 anglers at the launch and there's 15 boats stacked up ready to launch at the same time, you're like, oh, how is this logistically going to work? And it worked. But it was tough. It was tough fishing, but not as much as the next tournament after that.
Yeah, and mind you, there was like 4 or 5 boat tournaments, like bass tournaments in that same area. So it was rough. It was really rough.
And Okeechobee is crazy. Like, once you get on it, it's like its own world. I mean, it's obvious. You can look at a map and it's a big giant bowl and it's a massive lake, but it's almost like it's almost like going into another world being on Okeechobee. How just natural it is, and it feels untouched and so wild out there. It's really a getaway from regular everyday life just to go out on that lake.
Yeah, it's one of those places. Go ahead, Nick.
No, go ahead.
It's one of those places, like you said, it's a bucket list. You have to hit it if you get the opportunity to come down here. But Okeechobee can chew you up or spit you out. It can make you a hero, and it can make you a loser in the same tournament. Like, you could be riding high and winning, and then all of a sudden you got 3 other guys that will come up and behind you and just take you out because they happen to hit the next warm spot. So you can go out there and skunk. I've done it. I've been out there many, many times.
They do not jump in the boat. I can attest to that. Yeah, and that's anywhere I've ever been. Like, any lake I've ever been on, like the best lakes in the country. It doesn't matter where it is. They're just not going to jump in the boat. No matter how high your hopes are, it never happens.
And it seems to be, no matter what we're doing, you can get these reports all week long. They're catching massive fish. They're holding all these fish up on Lake Okeechobee on Thursday and Wednesday. And you're like, oh, Friday, Saturday's going to be awesome. And Saturday, it shuts down. It's like they know exactly what's going to happen on the weekend. And Okeechobee's brutal. So if you come down to Okeechobee, fish it during the week, you'll probably have a better day than on a weekend.
That's true. I test that, yeah.
So after Okeechobee, your second tournament on February 22nd was Lake George on St. Johns River, and that's only 3 people had a limit on that one, and most of them zeroed. So that was, that's Florida fishing, and late winter, early pre-spawn. It's a front comes through and it just shuts them down. So, but tell us about that tournament.
Oh, that particular tournament was the first tournament that we did multi-launches, because there's not like a big place where we can do a single launch. So we allowed anglers to multi-launch. We gave them boundaries to fish in, and they all did great. They did a great job of staying in the boundaries. But the worst thing that happened for us was they had like 20, 25 mile, 30 mile per hour gusts go across that water, and it was whitecapping like they were on the ocean. It was probably the worst conditions you could. So they were all tucked in canals and housing developments, hugging the borderlines. The anglers had got anything where the anglers had stayed in the warm, hot spring and allowed that warm water to come through. And so they were just fishing in there. And that was the only place that they were really catching fish. There's one of the anglers was catching them down south in the housing complex and the canals, but the bulk of the big fish were definitely caught in the warm springs there, a little waterway leading into Lake George. And they said it was so bad. There was no cell signal. It was like completely almost nothing. because of the weather and the cloud coverage. So they were having a hard time submitting fish. It was literally a logistic nightmare. It turned into a nightmare only because Nick, myself, and our other buddy, we didn't even go to that tournament, but Will did, and he's like, this is probably like the worst thing that could possibly happen was that wind that came in and just beat them up. They were all tired, they were all dead, and they were having a real hard time staying in position. But the anglers that did catch fish managed to do well. They caught nice sized fish, so they were definitely going deep. They were definitely deep.
And that, I mean, if maybe that's one that you don't hear about quite as much, but like I think the last 2 years, the Bassmaster's been there. Rick Clone won last year, and I forget who won this year, but I mean, it's a beautiful place on the west side and southwest of George. You've got some unbelievable crystal clear springs, a lot of manatee there and south of there, down into past Astor, into the other little lakes. But yeah, I mean, that's enough. And we'll go over all these, but all these are like bucket list fisheries for everybody. And and connected to the St. John's is also Rodman Reservoir, so
right.
You can go over there and fish that, and that's one of the best lakes in the country. That I think it's still more 10+ pounders come out of Rodman than any other lake in the country, even out of Texas. So yeah. All right, so the third one you had and this was the most recent one, was the tournament on Fellsmere, and that's something that I want to know more about. I hear a lot about Fellsmere, Stick Marsh. Can you tell everybody about that?
All right, so we have two pristine areas. So Stick Marsh has been around for a long time, and it's open to boat traffic only on trolling motors. So it's a beautiful area. It has beautiful cypress trees. I mean, we're talking about gators that are 12, 14, 15 feet long. They're not babies out there. The fish are healthy and strong in Stick Marsh. Now, Fellsmere, which happens to be Farm 13, Headwaters, whatever they want to call it now, they're working on making it a public area. But right now, it's just a fishery for kayakers and pedal craft. And what it was an orange orchard that was flooded to make Farm 13. And that Farm 13 is now one of the best, if not better, lakes in the middle of Florida area that produces trophy bass. I mean, it is got massive ones. 2 days before our tournament, there was an 11-pounder caught there that looked like easily it could have been a 15-pounder because this fish was huge. So that particular tournament started off with the coronavirus and what we're dealing with today. So we had to do a virtual captain's meeting. We had to do a virtual launch, which was really weird. We had to do a virtual check-in, check-out system through TourneyX. We used TourneyX to judge all the fishes. And then we had to do a virtual award ceremony because of everything. We just couldn't be close to each other down here. They were really starting to put down a lot of the constraints on us. And but we all wanted to fish. We're like, we needed to fish. It was one of those times you just started hearing so much junk, you needed to get out there. So with that particular tournament, we had 24 anglers, and we caught over 215 fish. Three of the anglers were over 100, and then right behind it, nipping on the heels, the fourth and fifth were 99. So I mean, it's one of those days that you need for your tournament trail. Especially
I have the weights right here. It was
go ahead.
105, 102 1/4, 101 1/4, 99 3/4, and 99 1/2 for the top 5 people. That is insane.
Yeah.
And you want to know something? Unfortunately, I wasn't there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It'd be hard to miss that one.
I was at home just wishing to be there.
Yeah. It was hot. It was stagnant. The bugs were outrageous. It's everything you can expect out of the middle of a marshland in the state of Florida, and it produced so well. I mean, everybody caught fish. It was one of those days that everybody was like, okay, how many did you catch? How many did you catch? And everybody pretty much caught their limits, and they caught everything from 15s and above. And that was a day on the trail that I think will be always remembered because it was hot. It didn't matter if you threw a chatterbait. It didn't matter if you threw a worm. It didn't matter if you threw a frog. You threw anything in the water, and you were able to pull fish out. It was a good day.
And is it just one launch?
So right now there's just one primitive launch. You gotta take it underneath the gate. You have to go down a bank and you have to launch from the dirt. But within the next few months and within this year, they're opening up a boat launch that is going to allow boaters, and it will be a little bit easier to work in. Obviously, it's still going to be a no motor zone, so they're not the boaters are allowed to go in, but they're going to be able to use trolling motors. But they're still working out all those fine details and still trying to figure out where they're building that ramp. So right now, it's still pristine for kayak anglers and pedal craft. You got it. If I'm gonna tell you now, if you get any chances to come down and fish Fellsmere and you have the opportunity, it's a must. It's a you have to come down and fish Farm 13 and do it from a paddle craft.
And do you have any idea when they're putting in that boat ramp? So I know I need to get there before then.
You definitely want to get down there before then. I would say it's still in the process. We saw some work equipment and things like that, but we didn't even see where they were putting it. So they still got a long way to go. It could be a couple months. It could be maybe the end of the year, maybe the beginning of next year. So we're banking on hopefully it being next year so we can have another event up there.
Cool. And and you also had another event, Heroes on the Water event, where y'all raised money for them on Tenor Rock. Can you tell us about that too?
Yeah, Tenor Rock Fishing with Friends, which is held up in Lakeland at the Tenor Rock Fish Management Area, is a very unique. It's all rock quarries that have been transformed. There we go. That's the word I wanted. Transformed into pristine prime fishing lakes. Nicholas and I wouldn't know because we got stuck on a lake that didn't have any of those pristine prime fish, but it was there's like 30 lakes in this. What's that?
I managed to get one out of there.
Yeah. So there's like 30 lakes in the area. You have to do a lottery system, so you have to go in, you have to check in, you have to put your name on a lake. Some of these lakes take 3 anglers, some of them take 15. That's how big they are. But there are monsters. There's trophy tagged bass in there, so that there's like hundreds and hundreds of dollars won out of those lakes pretty much every other week up there. And,
if you get a fish with a tag and the biologists get it. And,
Yeah. So there's tons of those up there. But for this particular event, we had 60-something anglers that met up, and we raised almost $3,000 for the Heroes on the Water local chapter. Every year we pick a chapter to donate to. So I want to say this year went to the Treasure Coast. Next year it's going to go to another chapter. But we raised over almost $3,000 between the anglers doing raffles and fees and other donations. And it was just a great time. We had the local chapter there, so we were able to give them cash in hand, and they were just beyond thankful. And we couldn't be more thankful for what they've done for our country. So it was a small bit to help them. And it was a awesome event just being there. Started out with a group of 5 people, and it grew to a group of 60 in 4 years. Next year will be our 5th anniversary, and we're doing it again. So if you ever see Tenor Rock Fishing with Friends on any of our pages, on any of our Facebook pages or anything, you want to sign up for that tournament because that is a opportunity to really fish some bass. Nick,
shout out to John Helm for helping to start that event. That was one of the things when I met John, I respected him a lot even more with the fact that he's putting on these events and getting a bunch of sponsors to help out with the event, and it really is truly a really cool experience for any skilled kayaker out there. It's one to do. I think it's one of those goals that you guys need to go and meet us up there. It's cool. Like he said, $3,000, right? It was $3,000 we raised, and that's unheard of. I mean, unheard of. So we did pretty good there.
Very cool. So, and now you've got a bunch of other events coming up, and we'll talk about some of those. And y'all are really from like one end of Florida, from the south end to the north end. I mean, y'all fish all over. The next one is April 18th, and that's on Orange Lake. Where's that at?
Orange Lake is just a little bit north of Ocala and south of. Wait, give me a second. I went blank, Nick. It's south of what?
I went blank too. I know that it's above Ocala. So
Yeah.
if you're Ocala, you're gonna hit Orange Lake. You can't miss it. It's the biggest lake in that area. So
if you have Disney, you're probably an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours away from Disney.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's a good. I think everybody knows where Disney is, kind of in the center. It's easy to do it.
So
I like it. And then, is that still going on, or are y'all going to do a virtual deal?
As of right now, we still got that planned. It's still on a calendar. We're still doing it. We will most likely do and adhere to the rules. We'll most likely do a virtual captain's meeting. We'll do virtual lunches and check-ins and stuff. But we want to still have the event and get anglers out there. We've got a lot of interest in it already. Anglers are coming in from a lot from up north this time, and that's going to be really exciting to see a lot of those guys. So yeah, we're still doing it. We're watching very closely what we're doing as a country, but we're still on the hunt and the prowl for some of those big old bass. And now that nobody's able to get out on the water, it's even better chance for us.
That's right. And I think now more than ever, people need an outlet, need to get outside, because we're all cooped up inside our houses for so long with working with our kids, whatever it is. It's nice to be able to get out. And really, I know I had said this before, but I just want to thank Turney X and Dwayne Wally and them. I mean, they've made this possible for our sport, and iAngler too. It's not used, and y'all don't use it, and the clubs I fish don't use it, but I'm sure it could be used as well. So just having those, because even a lot of regular bass boat guys, they're not able to do the same thing that we are. Or maybe they're going to be making it, if they were smart, maybe they'd be doing the same thing using Turney X and going to measuring. But yeah, we're just so fortunate to be able to still be able to do our sport in this time. And yeah, thank you to them and technology. Who knew technology would do something like this and allow us to do it? I mean, yeah, I'm sure they're not hurting right now.
Yeah, it's definitely awesome to have all those platforms to be able to support what we're doing. And not only that, but being able to use technology now is so much easier than getting a piece of paper and then verifying pics on a camera or a computer. And it's just so much easier now. And it makes it a lot more enjoyable for the angler. Makes it enjoyable for a tourney director and a judge to do the pictures. So again, kudos to Dwayne Wally and Turney X, iAngler, anybody that's getting into this industry that's putting out a platform. Kudos to them, because that's a lot of work, but it is so beneficial for what we do.
Yeah, and the biggest club here in my state, North Alabama Kayak Anglers, the last tournament that I was in, that's the first time. They've always done it by camera, where you'd bring in, they would look at your pictures, have a couple of different tournament directors look at it, and that was the first time that they had ever used Turney X, and it worked out great. And now they're going Turney X for the rest of the year. I think they saw the power of it too, and saw how easy it is and everything. So if any clubs haven't used it before, it's a great time to move over, and they're very accepting of people doing that. And I know they worked with my club, and within a week they had them signed up and we're ready to go. So
yeah,
it can be done fast too.
It's a very good. Very good.
And it's funny because if you look on there right now, a lot of the tournaments kind of coming up or have just happened are all the Corona Classic or the Corona Cup or stuff like that. There's a lot of Corona stuff going on in Turney X right now. It's pretty funny. So after Orange Lake, your next one is May 23rd, and that one's on Lake Kissimmee. So that's right there near Disney World. So
yep, real close to Disney, not too far away from it.
Yeah.
And is that which one are y'all going to have that's in conjunction with ICAST?
So at ICAST this year, we're still hoping that ICAST still happens. So we are working with the area, and we're going to be having that Saturday, right after ICAST, we're having a kayak tournament on the Harris chain. So that
the
is
Harris
just
chain. Okay.
yeah. So that is just a little bit east, just a tad bit north of Orlando, but it's another pristine area where they've had a lot of tournaments and a lot of big fish have been caught in there. So that will be a great event. We're hoping to have some guests there that are new and if not getting into the kayak industry. So that should be fun.
Big names.
Some of those. What's that?
Some big names also are really interested in joining us for that because they hear about the trail and these guys that they really love, this Florida fishing. They're going to take advantage of that because that's one of those things where they're going to plan to do that as an aftermath of ICAST. So that's it's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's a great chance to get out there and fish one of the Florida lakes, a Florida destination lake, and at the same time kind of relax from ICAST, from all that stress and go and everything of that. So that will be a good time.
Okay. So yeah, that's my fault for jumping ahead. But after the Lake Kissimmee one, which we saw everybody do the 10 down there and the Invitational, everybody knows how good that can fish. And after that, on June 20th, you have Lake Seminole, which is where the first Hobie BOS was this year, which I never want to go back to that lake, but I hope y'all do well there. I had a bad time there. But yeah, so you have Lake Seminole on June 20th, and then like you were saying, Harris Chain in July 18th. And is there a particular lake that y'all are looking at keeping the boundaries to, or just opening it up to all the lakes?
Well, Randy, I think Randy, he's actually, we started doing that after that second lake, after Lake Okeechobee. We started implementing that because we started noticing all these lakes had a bunch of areas where they can launch out of. But as long as we have one area that we could stick to and have a captain's meeting, if once this coronavirus is done and we get out of this virtual reality thing, then we'll go ahead and start doing captain's meeting, and then everybody will have their boundaries and where to come out. So
gotcha. And let me try to, we lost Randy here for a second. Let's see if we can get him back on. Is that somewhere that you've been before, Nicholas?
To which one exactly? The lake.
The Harris Chain.
The Harris Chain. No, most of these lakes are actually first for me. Like these are bucket lists for myself, and I live here. So, and I live really far south, so the only thing I'm used to is down here in South Florida. The most I've fished is Lake Okeechobee. I fished there like maybe I would say 5 times in my life. I fished there, and that's with kayaks. But everything else has just been, I got to fish Lake Toho last year for the first time, came in second in one of our Calcuttas we have up there. So I did really good there. That was the first time. And then I think that's it. I think that was the only one, Lake Kissimmee and then Lake Toho, which is pretty much the same chain. But everything else is new to me. Orange Lake is new. Salt Springs was pretty new. I never fished there. Fellsmere, I wish I would have gone, but couldn't. But that's definitely on my bucket list to go there. So
yeah. And is there, and then August 8th y'all have the Swanee River?
Swanee River, yeah. Now so Swanee River and all those areas up north, Randy has more experience on that, and Will also. They live around that area, Lakeland and stuff like that. So they dissected that whole area and they know it more than I do. I'm still researching the first couple of lakes that are starting up now in these couple of months. So I've got a little time to research on those. But I've heard really good things about all these lakes on this list. I mean, these are just powerhouse lakes that you got here.
Oh yeah.
These are the lakes you want to go to and try out. So
I believe it.
Yeah.
So while we've got just you here, you have to I really want to talk to you about your YouTube channel, man, because I'm a subscriber. Especially the last video you just posted, you're catching them big old lumphead peacock bass.
Yeah, man.
Man, that's how much fun is that?
Oh, dude, it's exciting. It's exciting. I don't know so much for myself because I'm so used to it. I was raised here, so my backyard is pretty much peacock and all the exotic fish you can think of. But yeah, man, every single person that has caught I don't know if you've seen my YouTube that far back, but I actually had an episode where I brought somebody that fishes the Delta. He lives up in North California, where I used to live, actually. Good friend of mine, and he's doing the bass tournament, like the bass boat tournaments up there. And it was his first time on a kayak, first time catching a peacock, and it was one of his biggest bucket list fish. And if you see that episode, you can see the joy in his face catching those peacock. And he told me, I've caught muskie, I've caught sea bass, I've caught what else runs there? Salmon. I've caught a bunch of all these big northern game fish, but nothing is like the peacock bass down here. I'm telling you. It fights like a tarpon, fights like a snook, it fights like a redfish, it fights like any saltwater fish you can think of. That's what a peacock bass does.
And do people keep them? I mean, do you eat them? Because I mean, I guess they are an invasive species. I mean, it's not like, you know, like that. I go out and catch crappie or sockeye, whatever you want to call them. There's some fish I'll go out and catch and I'll eat. And it seems like an invasive peacock bass, like, that's something you'd probably want to eat just to try to get them out of there. But I don't know.
Well, I mean,
they look delicious.
Yeah, go ahead.
They're probably delicious, right?
I'm sure they're delicious. I mean, even the bass down here we got are freaking. You could just tell they're delicious. But I personally never really like eating freshwater fish down here because the water here, yes, in South Florida you don't got a lot of running water unless you're in, you know, canal systems that are reached, you know, right on alongside the saltwater edge, the borders. There I could tell you can eat it and you'll be safe, but I wouldn't dabble myself eating those fish like in the Everglades and stuff like that because the water there is so stagnant. You know, most of that water is stagnant. It doesn't move a lot, and it's just been I've been scared to eat them, to be honest with you, but I'm sure they're good. A lot of people here, I've heard a lot of the Cubans, a lot of all the Hispanics down here, they eat them. So it's one of those things where you say, man, I fished them and I've enjoyed fishing them for all my life pretty much. And I've never gotten a chance to eat them. That's probably one of the things that I have to try out in one of my videos.
You know, it's one of the things where, like, some people think they're, you know, it'd be like a trash fish, and some people don't like. I know back in the day, because I'm from South Mississippi and fish Louisiana, and like for the longest time, redfish that was a trash fish. Like, people didn't eat them, and then everybody got into it, and then they almost decimated the population, and then now they're all back. So you know, they put a limit on it because before there was no limit because nobody was keeping them.
Right.
So
right.
Yeah, it's
same idea here with the peacock in the sense that, you know, obviously they're non-native fish, but they've been here for so long already. They've been
long.
In the 80s that they're considered already part of the ecosystem, and it's been proven through research and all these marine biologists that go out there to research them. They don't really affect so much unless you live on a pond, like a community lake or something like that, where they're kind of in one little place, they're not moving around. That's when you're gonna have an issue. But other than that, they've pretty much binded with the ecosystem down here. So not so much of a problem. The snakeheads, on the other hand, are a problem, and the way they managed it was they cut off their tracks in a sense where there's a particular place, I think it's West Palm Beach. You can catch these snakeheads from West Palm Beach down to, I would say, Pembroke Pines, which would be Broward, which would be kind of north of where I live right now. And within that construct, other than that little spot, you're not going to catch snakeheads, which is the weirdest thing. But they've figured out a way to keep them locked in there so they don't spread out, because those are the ones you want to be worried about, you know.
And people love, I mean, they say, I know the people up on Potomac and all that, like, they say that's an excellent eating fish. We don't have them down here where I live, but I mean, that's like a thing. People love eating snakeheads. So
yeah, that's you know, it's funny you say that, because that's one of the things that they actually eat here that everybody knows that they eat here of, and that's the snakeheads. Snakeheads are endorsed. You guys can go out there, kill them, bring them home and eat them by the Florida Fish and Wildlife, by everyone has said, go out there, kill them and eat them. But we, whenever we do a Calcutta or because we do, you know, part of the Sunshine State Trail that we're going to try to implement for next year is to get different species on board. Like right now we're particularly focused on bass, but we're gonna branch out and try to different styles. Mayan cichlids that we have down here too are one of the. You'll catch that before you catch a peacock down here. I guarantee you that they're more invasive down here. So we're trying our luck to try to get all the species involved in our trail. But that's one in particular that we've done snakehead fishing, and we let them go. We're not the type to kill and to do what the government's saying, but they also have allowed us to do what we do, and keep it going. So it's been pretty cool.
Cool. So how can we find you online, find the Kayak Anglers of Florida, and find you online?
Right. So Kayak Anglers of Florida, you can go on Facebook and just type in Kayak Anglers of Florida. You could either look me up at Nicholas Beltran on Facebook or Randy Newton on Facebook, and you'll get a link on it so you can press. But all that information is going to be on my YouTube channel, on my descriptions. Every description that I got, you probably know about this, Daniel. All the descriptions I got, I try to put everything that I know of, all the connections, all the gear that I use, all the profiles that I'm associated with. I have it on that description. So if anybody has any questions or they want to look for any information on behalf of Kayak Anglers of Florida, Tackle Fishing Adventures also is the YouTube channel that I have. You can go on there and take a peek and get involved.
Well, cool. Did you have anything else you wanted to talk about, or?
No, man. I mean, I hope everybody's safe. I'm a big fan of Chad Hoover. I'm a big fan of kayak bass fishing. That was the first kind of tournament kayaking competitive thing that I ever got involved with was his. As famous as it is. I've been listening to him lately, and he's just. I feel like what he's been saying lately, to keep these athletes and competitors safe. We are going to do the same thing as far as our trail. Everybody safe. There's a limit to where you gotta say, hey, this is stupid. Let me go back home, because you're not just affecting you and all the young guys, that are in the tournaments, but you're affecting the older guys. So, just keep that in mind, and that this will all pass. And keep fishing, tight lines to everybody.
That's right. Well, we lost Randy, but I definitely appreciate y'all being on show, and Sam be back next time, and just everybody stay safe, and everybody stay safe out there and have fun and enjoy your family. Try to find something positive out of all this. Maybe it's getting to spend more time with your family, and maybe it's thinking about your life in a different way than you did before. I'm sure we're all going to come at this a little bit differently than what we went into it. So thank y'all, and thanks for listening. Wear your PFDs, and we'll see you next time. Thanks.
Go check out the website, guys. Paddle, the letter N, and fin.com. Also check out YouTube, youtube.com/paddle and fin. If you got a question, comment, want to hear from a future guest, feel free to email us at paddle, the letter N, and fin @gmail.com. Don't forget to follow us on social media. We're doing giveaways, announcements, things like that at Facebook and Instagram at Paddle and Fin. Shout out to our show supporters, Rocktown Adventures, Loveland Canoe and Kayak, Hammered Lures, Fish Mob Lures, TRC Covers, Ketch Products. Go to ketchproducts.com. You can put the Paddle and Fin logo right on your catch board. Don't forget to go over and pick up your JigMasters Jigs. Use promo code PNF20 and save 20% today. Don't forget to rate and review the podcast on whatever platform you're listening to. It helps grow the audience, helps others find our podcast. So please drop a 5-star rating in on the podcast platform you're listening on. Don't forget about the recycled plastics program, you guys. Take your used plastic baits, put them in an envelope, mail them to the address in the show notes. Our man Eric Richards at Hammered Lures melts those down, makes new baits, and donates them to various chapters of Heroes on the Water.